Now turn to Section 3. Section 3. You will hear a tutor called Dr. Harris and a student called Lisa discussing Lisa's postgraduate research project on the role of health visitors. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi, Lisa. Good to see you again, especially since you've chosen to do your master's with us.
Well, I enjoyed my first degree in nursing, and I decided I want to become a health visitor. You know, someone who promotes health and well-being and is part of a team within a community, getting out and meeting people of all ages. So that's why I chose this research project.
Excellent. And your focus, the role of a health visitor in the community, is spot on. But at this stage, you need to keep an open mind so you can respond to initial findings once you get underway.
From what I read, the role seems to vary quite considerably.
Yes, some health visitors tend to focus on liaising with family doctors, others work independently with new patients. The work of health visitors in future is most likely to rely on the relationship between these roles, and I think that would be an interesting angle for you to pursue at some stage.
Yes, what I really want to impact is the problem of physical development checks, which start with babies when they are only a few days old.
Right.
Another area which I am thinking of investigating is the monitoring of nurseries, which is currently under review, and there is the issue of preschools, at what age they should take very young children. I thought I'd also include childminders, the individuals in the area of Haines that might not be qualified but look after young children.
That's an area I'd stay clear of as it's very complex.
Okay, will do. Anyway, I'd also like to make a short film about a few children.
A good idea, but it will depend on building up a relationship with one or two health visitors willing to introduce you to a family. An opportunity like that would allow you to look at how young children begin to form words, for example.
And peer relationships between children, as well as the ways in which they relate and play with each other, especially when they are around 2 to 3 years old, although early use of language is my main interest.
Okay, but there are other topic areas I'd like you to consider before we finalize the content and structure of your research. An equally important area is the child's home environment and the effect of a newborn baby.
Right.
You need to consider the impact of this on the parents, particularly if the family lives in poor economic circumstances. Of course, the additional expense could be a worry, especially if there are other children. Certainly, all those matters are very sensitive and not necessarily easy to detect. There's plenty of help available, but many people often feel too proud to ask for it.
This is the area where I will need to be familiar with family law, isn't it?
Very much so. By all means, be aware of the medical conditions, and you also need to consider social practice. But you'll find that in most circumstances, you will have to refer to the law to understand how far a health visitor can intervene.
Yes, I appreciate that. Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
Now, your book list. I'm glad to see worldwide health care policies tops your list.
Well, I wasn't sure how relevant it would be, but it's a new edition, so the information is current.
Yes, some of it may not be relevant, but it's important to keep abreast of developments in other countries, which may inform our own government's legislation.
I understand. What about supporting vulnerable families? It's not as costly as some of the other books on my list.
It's an excellent buy considering the price, even though it does leave a few things out.
I've already ordered Health Visitors and Child Protection. I hope that was right.
Well, it's very expensive, but it's a sound investment, and there aren't many textbooks which cover as much detail as this. It will be a valuable reference even if the style is occasionally boring.
And what about the future of health visiting? I'm unsure how useful it will be.
Useful in a utilitarian sense? Probably not, but it's stimulating in the way the writer considers what health visiting could be like in a perfect world. I'd suggest dipping into it to discover the improvements which could be made if money were no object.
And resources for health visitors?
Strangely enough, it's not as helpful as the title suggested. It offers a huge variety of activities and strategies which are great when working with young children, but they're presented in a rather haphazard way, and the index isn't much use either. Be very careful when using it.
Okay. That is the end of Section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.